The stars themselves were dying and nobody knew how to stop it. Ashcore floated through the void of space, its massive body stretching for miles across the darkness. The creature looked like something from ancient Earth legends, a dragon made of silver scales that reflected starlight like mirrors. But this was no myth. This was the last of the Dracones, a species that had existed before most civilizations learned to walk upright. For millions of years, Ashcore had done something no machine or technology could replicate. It maintained balance. Gravity wells stayed stable. Star systems remained in their proper orbits. Planets circled their suns in perfect harmony. All because this ancient being existed and breathed and moved through space. Its very presence keeping the Andara galaxy from tearing itself apart. Now, Ashcore was dying. The Council of Sovereign Worlds watched from their monitoring stations. 12 different alien species, all advanced, all powerful, all completely helpless. Their screens showed Ashcore's vital signs dropping. The dragon's energy signature, normally bright enough to be seen across light years, flickered like a candle in wind. High Curator Reith stood before the council chamber. His species, the Aurelians, had existed for over 1 billion years. They had mastered quantum mechanics when Earth's sun was still forming. They had built wonders that humanity couldn't even imagine. But right now Reith felt old and tired and afraid. "We must accept reality," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "When Ashcore dies, we have perhaps 6 months before gravitational collapse begins. Our technology cannot replace what it does naturally." Ambassador Hendricks, the human representative, stepped forward. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 600 years. Most council members still considered them children playing with toys they barely understood. "Let us help," Hendricks said. "Human scientists have theories about gravitational harmonics. We could—" "No," Reith interrupted. "This is beyond your primitive understanding. Your species still uses chemical rockets for half your fleet. You cannot comprehend forces that predate your evolution." Hendricks sat down, jaw tight with frustration. Around the chamber, other council members nodded in agreement. Humanity meant well, but they were too young, too inexperienced. This required wisdom that took millions of years to accumulate. Light years away, on a frontier colony called New Haven, 7-year-old Lucy Walsh lay in the grass outside her family's habitat dome. She liked watching the stars. Her father always said she had a gift for it, that she noticed patterns other people missed. Tonight something felt wrong. Lucy sat up, pressing her small hand against her chest. Her heart beat too fast. The stars seemed dimmer somehow, like someone had turned down their brightness. She felt cold despite the warm evening air. "Daddy," she called out, running toward the habitat where her father worked in his study. Robert Walsh looked up from his astronomical charts when his daughter burst through the door. "Lucy, what's wrong?" "The stars," she said, breathless. "Something's happening to them." "Can't you feel it?" Robert smiled gently. "Sweetheart, the stars are fine. You probably just—" Then his monitoring equipment started screaming alarms. Data flooded his screens. Gravitational readings from across the sector were spiking and dropping in chaotic patterns. He pulled up the Deep Space Observation Network and felt his blood go cold. The anomaly was centered in the Cradle Nebula, nearly 50 light-years away. "Stay here," he told Lucy, but she followed him anyway as he ran to the communications center. The colony administrator was already there, her face pale. "It's happening," she said. "The Draconis is dying. Council just sent out the alert." Lucy tugged on her father's sleeve. "What's a Draconis?" Robert knelt down to her level. "A very old, very important creature. It helps keep everything in space where it should be. Like—" He struggled for an analogy she'd understand. "Like a shepherd watching over sheep. Making sure none wander off or get lost, and it's dying?" Lucy's voice was small. "Yes, sweetheart. That's sad." Lucy looked toward the window, toward the stars. It must be lonely. Across the galaxy, Ashcore felt its strength failing. The dragon had lived for so long that it remembered when the Cradle Nebula was born, when those swirling clouds of gas first began forming new stars. It had been young then, full of energy, one of many Draconis who maintained the cosmic balance. Now it was the last. All the others had died one by one across the ages. Ashcore had continued alone, driven by duty and purpose. But even the longest life must end. The dragon turned itself toward the Cradle Nebula, toward home. If it must die, it would die where it was born. Perhaps that meant something. Perhaps not. After so many millions of years, Ashkor wasn't sure anymore. Its great wings, made of energy and folded space rather than flesh and bone, beat one last time. It began the final journey. On New Haven, Lucy suddenly gasped and collapsed. Robert caught her before she hit the floor. "Lucy, Lucy, answer me!" Her eyes had rolled back, showing only whites. Her small body trembled. Then she spoke, but her voice sounded strange, layered with harmonics that made Robert's ears hurt. "It flies home," Lucy said. "The shepherd returns to the field of stars. So tired, so alone, millions of years, millions, alone. Someone get a doctor," Robert shouted. Lucy's eyes focused again. She looked at her father and tears ran down her cheeks. "Daddy, I saw it. The dragon. It's so beautiful and so sad. It's going home to die. How could you possibly?" "I don't know," Lucy whispered, "but I felt it. Like it was here, inside my head, sharing its memories with me." Robert held his daughter close, not understanding but knowing she wasn't making this up. Lucy didn't lie. She was frightened, confused, but she was telling the truth as she experienced it. In the Cradle Nebula, Ashkor's massive form drifted to a stop among the stellar nurseries where it had been born. New stars glowed around it, infant suns that would burn for billions of years. They would outlive the dragon by eternities. Ashkor closed its ancient eyes. Its heart slowed. The energy that had sustained it for countless ages began to dissipate. The last Draconis took its final breath. And across the entire Andara galaxy, reality shuddered. The wave hit like nothing anyone had ever experienced. Scientists across the galaxy would later describe it as a gravitational shockwave, a ripple in space-time itself caused by the sudden absence of something that had been there for millions of years. But in the moment, people only knew that reality felt wrong. On New Haven, Lucy screamed. Her father held her as she convulsed, her small hands gripping his shirt so hard her knuckles turned white. The doctor arrived within minutes, scanning her, with every medical device available, but nothing showed abnormalities. Her body was physically fine. Pulse elevated but stable, the doctor said. Brain activity is off the charts, though. I've never seen patterns like this. It's almost like she's processing information at impossible speeds. Lucy's eyes opened. They looked different somehow, older than a 7-year-old's eyes should look. She stared at the ceiling, but Robert knew she wasn't seeing the habitat dome. She was seeing something much farther away. "It's gone," she whispered. "The dragon is gone, and everything is falling apart." As if responding to her words, alarms began wailing across the colony. The administrator burst into the medical center, her face flushed. "Gravitational anomalies are appearing throughout the sector. Ships are reporting navigation failures. The orbital station just started drifting from its position." She noticed Lucy. "Is she okay?" "I don't know," Robert admitted. Lucy sat up suddenly, pulling away from her father. She walked to a wall display and touched it, bringing up a star chart. Her small fingers moved across the screen with practiced ease, zooming to specific coordinates, marking locations in space. "Here," she said, pointing. "And here, and here. These systems will destabilize first. The gravitational waves are spreading outward from the Cradle Nebula in a cascade pattern." Everyone stared at her. A 7-year-old shouldn't understand astrophysics. She shouldn't know how to read star charts with such precision. "How do you know this?" the doctor asked gently. Lucy turned to look at them, and Robert saw confusion in her eyes, as if she was wondering the same thing. "The dragon showed me. Before it died, it showed me how everything connects, how it kept balance, and now that balance is broken." Across the galaxy, the Council of Sovereign Worlds scrambled to respond. Their most brilliant scientists worked desperately on solutions, but everything they tried failed. They could stabilize small areas temporarily, but that required massive energy expenditure and constant maintenance. They couldn't possibly cover an entire galaxy. High Curator Reith stood before technical displays showing the spreading disaster. Already 3 systems had reported planets drifting from stable orbits. 2 asteroid fields had destabilized, sending debris on collision courses with inhabited worlds. And this was just the beginning. "We need time," one scientist said. "If We had years. We might develop technology to replicate what the Draconis did naturally, but we have months at best. Then we work faster, Reith ordered, though doubt gnawed at him. His species had never encountered a problem technology couldn't solve. Until now, Ambassador Hendricks appeared on his communication screen. Curator, we need to talk about the human child. What human child? Lucy Walsh, age 7, living on New Haven Colony. She experienced something during the Draconis death. Our scientists believe she may have established some kind of connection with the creature. Reith felt his patience, already thin, snap entirely. Ambassador, we are facing a galaxy-wide catastrophe. I do not have time for human superstitions about children and their imaginations. She predicted the gravitational cascade pattern, Hendricks said quietly. She marked the systems that would fail first on a star chart. She was correct about all of them. That made Reith pause. How is that possible? We don't know, but she claims the Draconis showed her its memories, that it shared knowledge with her before dying. Impossible. The Draconis were not telepathic. They maintained gravitational balance through quantum field manipulation, not mental projection. Then how did a 7-year-old human, with no training in astrophysics, predict our cascade failure before our computers did? Reith didn't have an answer. He didn't like not having answers. On New Haven, Lucy couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ashkor's memories. Millions of years of flying through space, watching civilizations rise and fall, tending to the galaxy like a garden, making tiny adjustments here and there to keep everything growing properly. She saw other Draconis too in ancient memories. They had been social creatures once, flying together in groups, singing to each other across the void in frequencies that made stars tremble. But one by one they had died, from old age or accidents or unknown causes, until only Ashkor remained. The loneliness in those memories hurt worse than any physical pain. Robert found her sitting by the window, staring at stars that looked different now, less stable, less permanent. Can't sleep? He asked, sitting beside her. The dragon was alone for so long, Lucy said. Thousands of years after the last of its kind died. It kept working because it knew others depended on it. All those worlds, all those people. It couldn't abandon them. That sounds very lonely. It was. Lucy pressed her hand against the window. It's still there, Daddy. Sort of. Not alive, but not completely gone either. Like an echo. And it's calling me. Calling you where? To the Cradle Nebula, where it died. She looked at her father. I know it sounds crazy. I know I'm just a kid and I shouldn't understand any of this. But I do understand. The dragon made sure I would. Robert pulled his daughter close. Why would it do that? Why you? I don't know. But I was born during something called the harmonic convergence. Remember? You told me the story. How New Haven passed through a weird energy field right when Mom was having me, and all the instruments went haywire for a few minutes. Robert did remember. It had been terrifying, though Lucy's birth itself had been normal. The energy field had been residual discharge from an old Draconis migration path they'd learned later. Nothing dangerous, just unusual. You think that connected you to Ashkor somehow? Maybe. Or maybe the dragon knew what would happen when it died. Maybe it looked ahead and saw that someone would need to understand. To help. And it chose me because I was there, in the right place, at the right time. But you're 7 years old. Lucy smiled sadly. I know, Daddy. But age doesn't matter to something that lived for millions of years. To Ashkor, everyone is young. Everyone is a child. What mattered was that I could receive what it had to share. The communication system chimed. Robert answered, and Ambassador Hendricks appeared on the screen. Dr. Walsh, the council wants to examine Lucy. They're sending a diplomatic team to New Haven within the week. Absolutely not, Robert said immediately. She's been through enough. I understand, but if there's any chance she can help. She's 7. Lucy touched her father's arm. It's okay, I want to help. The dragon showed me things, important things. Maybe the council needs to see them too. Robert looked at his daughter, seeing determination in her young face that shouldn't be there. She was being forced to grow up too fast by circumstances beyond anyone's control. But she was also right. If she could help, she had to try. Fine, he said. But I go with her, everywhere, non-negotiable. Hendricks nodded. Agreed. After the call ended, Robert held Lucy again, wondering what he was allowing her to walk into. The council didn't trust humanity. They would view her as a curiosity at best, a fraud at worst. But somewhere in the Cradle Nebula, Ashkor's crystallized body floated among newborn stars. And Lucy knew, with certainty she couldn't explain, that the dragon wasn't finished yet. Death wasn't always the end. Sometimes it was just waiting for the right person to do the impossible. Lucy drew pictures constantly now. Her father watched her fill page after page with images that shouldn't come from a child's imagination. Detailed star charts with coordinates marked in languages nobody on New Haven could read. Diagrams of energy patterns flowing through space. And always the dragon. She drew Ashkor in flight, wings spread across light years. She drew it curled around a newborn star, protecting it while it grew strong. She drew its eyes ancient and wise and infinitely sad. Sometimes she cried while drawing, tears falling onto the paper, but she never stopped. "Baby, you need to rest," her mother said gently. "I can't," Lucy replied, not looking up from her work. "I need to get it all out before I forget. The dragon showed me so much. If I don't draw it now, it might fade away." The diplomatic team arrived 5 days after Ashkor's death. 3 ships carrying representatives from the council, along with xenolinguists, quantum physicists, and medical specialists. They wanted to understand what was happening to Lucy Walsh. High Curator Reith did not come personally, but he sent Oren, a Kalari scientist known for his open-mindedness. The Kalari were one of the younger council races, only 80 million years old, and they still remembered what it felt like to be dismissed by older species. Oren was tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected light like mercury. When he met Lucy, he didn't talk down to her or treat her like she was making things up. He simply sat across from her at the kitchen table and looked at her drawings. "These are remarkable," he said, studying a chart covered in mathematical formulas. "This appears to be Proto-Draconic script, a language that hasn't been used in 3 million years. Where did you learn it?" "The dragon taught me," Lucy said simply. "Not with words. With feelings and images. I just know what it means. Can you translate this section?" Lucy looked at the symbols she'd drawn. It says, "The heart of balance lies not in force but in listening." And then it shows calculations for how gravity works on quantum levels. The dragon didn't push things into place. It listened to what they wanted to do and helped them do it harmoniously. Oren's eyes widened. He pulled out a handheld device and showed it to the other scientists in the room. They gathered around, speaking in hushed voices. One of them, a skeptical Aurelian named Dren, shook his head. The child could have accessed databases. Children are clever. They repeat what they hear without understanding it. "Test me," Lucy said, her voice steady. She met Dren's eyes without fear. "Ask me something only someone who really knows would understand." Dren considered this. He pulled up a complex gravitational equation on his tablet, one that had stumped scientists for decades. The 3-body problem. 3 masses orbiting each other create chaotic patterns we cannot predict beyond certain time frames. How would the Draconis solve this? Lucy didn't hesitate. The dragon wouldn't solve it. That's the wrong way to think about it. The 3-body problem only exists if you try to control everything. The dragon would find the natural rhythm of the 3 bodies and amplify it slightly, like pushing a child on a swing at just the right moments. You don't force the swing to move how you want. You help it move how it already wants to move. The room went silent. Oren stared at Lucy with something like awe. That's exactly the approach our ancient texts describe, but those texts are restricted to council researchers. There is no way you could have accessed them. "I didn't," Lucy said. "I learned from Ashkor." For the next 3 days, scientists tested Lucy in every way they could imagine. They showed her star charts and asked her to predict gravitational flows. She did, accurately. They gave her fragments of Proto-Draconic text. She translated them flawlessly. They asked her to describe quantum field mechanics. She drew diagrams that made theoretical. Physicists weep with frustration because they couldn't understand how a child grasped concepts they'd studied for centuries. But the most striking moment came when Lucy suddenly stood up in the middle of an examination and walked to the window. She pressed both hands against the glass, staring at the night sky. "What's wrong?" Robert asked, immediately at her side. "There." Lucy pointed to a specific point in the sky. "That system. 3 planets and a dying star. The gravitational balance is failing. The inner planet is going to spiral into the sun within the next 8 hours unless someone helps." Oren checked his instruments. His face went pale. "She's right." "How did you know?" "We haven't received any distress signals." "I felt it," Lucy said simply, "like the dragon did. I can feel when things are breaking. And I know where to find Ashkor's body. It's calling me. It's been calling me since it died." "Show us," Oren said. Lucy returned to the table and pulled up a navigation chart. Her small fingers flew across the display, zooming through sectors until she reached the Cradle Nebula. Then she zoomed closer, past swirling gases and newborn stars, until she pointed at a specific coordinate. "There. That's where the dragon rests." Oren compared her coordinates with council data. His expression shifted from skepticism to shock. Yes. Our deep space probes detected a massive crystalline structure at exactly these coordinates 2 days ago. We hadn't identified it yet because the radiation from nearby star formation interferes with scans." "How could you possibly know?" "Because part of Ashkor is still there," Lucy said. "Not alive, but not completely gone. It exists between states. Quantum, I think? I don't know the right word. But its consciousness didn't entirely disappear when its body stopped working. It's trapped, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Dren demanded. He still didn't want to believe that a human child could know things his ancient species had never discovered. Lucy looked at him with those 2 old eyes. "Waiting for someone to do what you all think is impossible." Ambassador Hendricks had been observing everything quietly. Now she stepped forward. "We need to organize an expedition to the Cradle Nebula. If there's any chance Lucy is right, we have to investigate." "An expedition?" Dren laughed harshly. "To take a human child to gaze at a dead dragon? We have a galaxy falling apart. We don't have time for this superstitious nonsense." "It's not nonsense," Oren said firmly. "I've tested this child myself. She knows things she shouldn't. She's connected to the Draconis somehow. If there's even a small possibility she can help stabilize the gravitational collapse, we'd be fools not to investigate. She's 7 years old. And the Draconis chose her." Oren's voice carried weight now, authority. "I don't understand why or how, but I believe it happened. I'm recommending to the Council that we authorize an immediate expedition." Hendricks smiled. It was the first time humanity had received genuine support from a Council race on an important matter. "Thank you, Oren." That night, Lucy couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed feeling the galaxy breaking around her. Each gravitational anomaly registered in her awareness like a distant cry for help. She felt planets shifting, moons drifting, asteroids scattering. The careful balance that Ashkor had maintained for so long was falling apart, and she could feel every single failure. It hurt. Not physically, but deeper, like grief. Robert found her crying silently in the dark. "It's too much," she whispered when he held her. "There's too much breaking. I can feel it all, Daddy. Every world that's in danger, every star that's destabilizing. It's like millions of voices calling for help and I can't do anything." "We're going to the Cradle Nebula," Robert said. "The Council approved the expedition. You'll be able to reach Ashkor. What if I can't help? What if the dragon made a mistake choosing me? Then we'll figure something else out. But Lucy, I've watched you these past few days. You've amazed scientists who've studied the universe for longer than Earth has existed. You've predicted things no one else could see. If anyone can do something impossible, it's you." Lucy wanted to believe him, but she was still just a 7-year-old girl who missed playing with her friends and drawing pictures of flowers instead of dying stars. The weight of an entire galaxy's survival felt crushing. In the Cradle Nebula, Ashkor's crystallized body turned slowly in the void. New stars burned around it, their light reflecting off silver scales that no longer moved. But deep within that crystalline structure, in spaces between quantum states, a fragment of consciousness waited. It had chosen carefully. It had planted seeds in a child's mind during a moment of cosmic convergence. Now it could only wait and hope that the impossible was possible after all. The expedition ship looked like a silver needle threading through chaos. Lucy pressed her face against the observation window. watching space itself behave in ways it shouldn't. Stars flickered like candles in wind. Distant galaxies twisted and warped as gravitational lensing went haywire, and everywhere she felt the breaking. "We're approaching the first rift," the pilot announced. Rifts. That's what they called the tiers in space-time that had begun appearing throughout the galaxy, places where Ashkor's absence created holes in the fabric of reality itself. Ships that entered rifts sometimes came out in different sectors entirely. Sometimes they didn't come out at all. Robert stood beside his daughter, one hand on her shoulder. He'd refused to let her make this journey alone, as had her mother. The council had reluctantly agreed to allow them passage. Oren studied his instruments from the science station. The rift extends across 200,000 kilometers. We'll need to navigate through it carefully. One wrong move and spatial currents could tear us apart. "I can guide us," Lucy said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "Lucy, you're not a navigator," Robert said gently. "I know, but I can feel the safe paths, like trails through a forest. The dragon showed me how." She walked to the navigation console, standing on her tiptoes to reach it. "May I?" The pilot looked uncertain, but Oren nodded. "Let her try." Lucy placed her small hands on the control interface. She closed her eyes, and suddenly she could see the rift ahead. Not with her eyes, but with whatever sense Ashkor had awakened in her. The rift wasn't empty chaos. It had structure, patterns, flows of energy that moved in predictable ways if you knew how to read them. "Turn left 17 degrees, she said, her voice taking on that strange harmonic quality it sometimes did. "Reduce speed by 40%. There's a current running through the center. If we ride it, it'll carry us through safely." The pilot hesitated only a moment before following her instructions. The ship entered the rift, and reality went strange. Colors shifted through spectrums human eyes weren't designed to perceive. Time felt elastic, stretching and compressing. Lucy's mother made a small sound of distress, but Lucy remained focused. "Steady," Lucy whispered. "Don't fight it. Let it guide us," like floating downstream instead of swimming against the current. The ship moved through impossible space, following Lucy's gentle corrections. 30 minutes later, they emerged on the other side, intact and exactly where they needed to be. The pilot exhaled shakily. "I've been flying for 40 years. I've never seen anyone navigate a rift that smoothly." She listened instead of controlling, Oren said, staring at Lucy with wonder. Just like she described with the three-body problem. She's thinking like a Draconis. High Curator Reith had been monitoring the expedition remotely. Now his image appeared on the communication screen, his ancient face troubled. "This changes things. If the child can navigate rifts, she possesses abilities we desperately need. But it also confirms she's connected to forces we don't understand." "She's helping us," Oren pointed out. "For now. But what if that connection has other effects? What if she's changing in ways we can't predict?" Lucy turned away from the navigation console. She looked tired, younger than 7 somehow. "I'm still me," she said to Reith's image. "I'm scared and I miss my friends and I wish I could just be a normal kid. But the dragon needed someone. And I'm trying my best to help." Reith's expression softened slightly. "You're very brave, child. Braver than many who've lived far longer." The journey continued. Over the next 5 days, they encountered 3 more rifts, each one successfully navigated by Lucy. They passed through sectors where entire star systems had begun drifting from their orbits. They received distress calls from colonies facing asteroid storms caused by destabilizing gravitational fields. Each crisis weighed on Lucy. She felt every world in danger, every life at risk. At night, she dreamed of Ashkor's memories and woke crying. On the 4th day, they encountered something unexpected. An alien vessel drifted dead in space, its engines cold. The ship belonged to a species called the Thelani, aggressive traders who respected no one but themselves. They'd been trying to use a rift as a shortcut and gotten trapped in its spatial currents. "Should we help them?" the pilot asked. Dren, who had insisted on joining the expedition despite his skepticism, shook his head. "The Thelani would not help us. We should continue our mission." Lucy looked at the dying ship. She could feel the life signs aboard. 15 beings running out of air. "We have to help them." "We don't have time," Dren argued. "Every hour we delay, more systems collapse." "The dragon would help them," Lucy said firmly. "Ashkor protected everyone. It didn't choose who deserved saving. It just saved them all." Robert felt pride swell in his chest. His daughter, faced with the weight of a galaxy's survival, still insisted on basic decency. Oren made the decision. We helped them. Using Lucy's guidance, they navigated close to the drifting ship and established a connection. The Thalani were surprised and suspicious when the rescue team boarded. "Why help us?" their captain demanded in broken common tongue. "Humans are weak. We have taken your ships before. We have stolen from your colonies." Robert, who'd joined the rescue team, met the alien's hostile gaze calmly. "Because someone's in trouble. That's reason enough." The Thalani captain had no response to that. As they brought the refugees aboard, Lucy approached the captain. The tall alien stared down at the small human child. "Your ship went through a rift wrong," Lucy said. "You tried to force your way through instead of following the currents. That never works. The universe doesn't like being forced. And you know this, how little human? I learned from someone very old and very wise." Lucy pulled out a drawing she'd made showing a rift's internal structure. "If you follow these patterns, you can move through rifts safely. The dragon showed me. I'll show you." The Thalani captain took the drawing, studying it carefully. Something shifted in his expression. "Thank you," he said quietly. "This knowledge, it's valuable. It's free," Lucy said. "The dragon never charged anyone for help. Neither do I." The rescued Thalani crew transferred to a passing council patrol ship. As they left, their captain transmitted a message back to the expedition vessel. "I will tell my people about the human child who saved us, who shared wisdom instead of demanding payment. Perhaps we have misunderstood your species." Dren watched this exchange with a troubled expression. Oren noticed and asked, "Something wrong?" "I've spent 3,000 years believing younger species had nothing valuable to offer," Dren admitted. "That age and experience were all that mattered. But this child shows wisdom my people have forgotten. She helps those who've wronged her kind. She shares knowledge freely. Perhaps," he paused, struggling with the words, "perhaps I've been wrong." On the 6th day, they finally reached the Cradle Nebula. The sight took everyone's breath away. Massive clouds of gas and dust glowed in every color imaginable, lit from within by thousands of newborn stars. This was where stars came to birth, where the universe renewed itself. And floating among the stellar nurseries, they found Ashkor. The dragon's body had crystallized completely, transforming into a structure that looked like it was carved from diamond. Miles long, wings spread wide, frozen in the moment between life and death. Light from nearby stars passed through the crystalline scales, creating rainbow patterns across space. Lucy started crying the moment she saw it. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and so sad. It died alone. After everything it did, it died alone." "Not alone," Oren said gently. "You were with it in a way. Through that connection." The ship moved closer, carefully navigating the radiation and stellar winds. Lucy pressed both hands against the window, feeling the pull from Ashkor's body. The crystalline structure called to her like a beacon. "I need to go there," she said. "I need to touch it." "That's impossible," Dren protested. "The radiation levels alone would kill anyone who tried." But Lucy shook her head. "Not me. The dragon made sure I could survive. It prepared me for this moment." She looked at her father, and Robert saw determination mixed with fear in her eyes. His little girl was about to attempt something that terrified her, but she would do it anyway because it needed doing. "I'll go with you," he said. "Daddy." "You can't. The radiation. Then I'll get as close as I can." "You're not doing this completely alone." Lucy hugged him fiercely. Oren prepared a small transport pod. "I'm calibrating the shields to maximum. It won't protect completely, but it'll get you close enough." As they prepared for the final approach, Lucy looked out at Ashkor's crystallized form one more time. Somewhere in that structure between quantum states, a consciousness waited. The impossible was about to be attempted, and Lucy was the only one who could attempt it. The pod felt too small and too empty. Lucy sat strapped into the pilot's seat, her feet dangling above the floor. Through the viewport, Ashkor's crystallized body grew larger as they approached. This close, she could see details in the scales, patterns that looked almost like writing in a language made of light and structure. Robert piloted from beside her, his jaw tight with worry. He'd argued with everyone about this plan, but Lucy had been adamant. She needed to do this. The whole galaxy was falling apart, and she was the only one who might be able to help. "Radiation levels increasing," Robert said, watching the instruments. "Shields holding, but barely." Lucy felt warmth spreading through her body. Not painful, but present. Energy washing over her that would kill anyone else. But the dragon had changed her during that moment of convergence when she was born, made her able to withstand things humans shouldn't survive. "I'm okay, Daddy," she said. "You shouldn't have to be." His voice cracked slightly. "You should be home playing with dolls and learning to read and having a normal childhood. Not risking your life to save a galaxy that barely acknowledges your species exists. But I am here, and I can help. That's what matters." They drew closer. The crystallized dragon filled their entire view now, a mountain of diamond floating in space. Lucy could feel the consciousness trapped inside, aware but unable to move or speak or act. Ashkor existed in a quantum state between life and death, sustained by nothing except the faint hope that someone would come. "We're as close as I can safely get," Robert said. "The radiation beyond this point would overwhelm the shields." Lucy unbuckled her harness. "I need to go the rest of the way alone." "Lucy, no. I can't let you—" She placed her small hand on his arm. "You have to trust me, Daddy. Trust what the dragon prepared me for. I'll be okay. I promise." Robert looked at his 7-year-old daughter, seeing courage in her face that humbled him. She was so young, so small, but she carried something inside her that made her larger than circumstance. "I love you," he said. "I love you too. Keep the connection open. Talk to me while I'm out there. Tell me about home, about Mom, about normal things. It'll help me stay focused." Lucy suited up in the small environmental suit designed for emergency spacewalks. It fit loosely on her child-sized frame, but it would provide minimal protection while she crossed the final distance to Ashkor's body. The airlock opened, and Lucy stepped into space. Immediately, energy washed over her. Radiation from nearby star formation, cosmic winds, quantum fluctuations from Ashkor's crystalline structure. She felt all of it, but her body absorbed and processed it instead of being destroyed. The dragon had made her into something more than human without taking away her humanity. She activated the small thrusters on her suit, moving slowly toward the massive crystallized form. Her father's voice came through her helmet speakers, talking about the garden her mother was planting back home, about the new puppy their neighbor had adopted, about ordinary, beautiful things that felt impossibly far away. Lucy focused on his voice as she approached Ashkor's scales. She reached out and touched the crystalline surface. The universe exploded into her awareness. Suddenly she experienced everything Ashkor had ever been. Millions of years compressed into seconds. She felt what it was like to fly between stars, to sense gravitational flows across light years, to gently adjust the orbit of a planet to keep it in the zone where life could flourish. She felt the loneliness of being the last. Thousands of years after the final Draconis died, Ashkor had continued its duty because someone had to. It couldn't abandon the countless worlds depending on its presence. She felt the decision to share its knowledge before death. Looking forward through quantum probabilities, seeing a moment of convergence, a child being born in exactly the right conditions to receive what needed to be passed on. And she felt the moment of death, and the conscious choice to not let go completely, to exist between states trapped and waiting because dying meant letting everyone down. "Lucy, Lucy, your vitals are spiking. Talk to me." Her father's voice pulled her back slightly. She gasped, tears streaming down her face inside the helmet. "I'm here," she managed. "I'm okay. But Daddy, I understand now. Ashkor isn't completely dead. It's holding on, existing in a quantum state, half in this world, half beyond. But it can't stay like this forever. The strain is too much. Then we need to let it go," Robert said gently. "Let it rest." "No," Lucy said firmly. "I need to bring it back." On the main ship, everyone listening to the communication link erupted in protest. Oren's voice cut through the chaos. "Lucy, that's impossible. Nothing can bring back the dead. Not even the most advanced technology we possess can reverse biological death." "The dragon isn't biologically dead," Lucy explained, her voice taking on that strange harmonic quality again. "It's quantum dead, existing in superposition between states. I can serve as a bridge. Pull its consciousness back into anchored reality. That would require channeling enormous amounts of energy through yourself," Oren said. "The radiation levels alone would kill you instantly." "It would kill anyone else," Lucy corrected. "But the dragon made sure I could survive it. This is why it chose me, why it prepared me." Dren's voice crackled over the channel. "Even if you survive the energy transfer, bonding with a quantum consciousness could destroy your own identity. You might lose yourself completely, Lucy was quiet for a moment. She thought about her home, her parents, her friends. She thought about being a normal 7-year-old girl who worried about homework and liked drawing flowers. She thought about all the things she would miss if this went wrong. Then she thought about the millions of worlds facing destruction. All those lives, all those civilizations, everything Ashkor had protected for so long. "I have to try," she said simply. "Lucy, no." Robert's voice broke. "Please, there has to be another way." "There isn't, Daddy. I've seen all the possible futures in Ashkor's memories. This is the only path that works." "I'm sorry. You're 7 years old. You shouldn't have to make this choice." "I know, but someone has to. And I'm the only one who can." Back on the ship, Robert stood frozen at the controls. Every instinct screamed at him to go retrieve his daughter, to pull her away from danger, to protect her like a father should. But he also knew she was right. The galaxy was dying. Lucy was the only one who might save it. The hardest thing a parent can do is trust their child to face danger alone. "Tell me what you need," he said, voice steady despite his breaking heart. Lucy smiled, though he couldn't see it through her helmet. "Just keep talking to me. About home. About Mom. About normal things. Help me remember who I am while I do this." She pressed both hands flat against Ashkor's crystallized scales. Energy began flowing immediately, not from the dragon into her, but through her. She became a conduit, a bridge between quantum states. Power from nearby stars, from the nebula itself, from the fabric of space-time, all channeling through her small body and into Ashkor's crystalline form. It hurt, not physically, but deeper. Like her soul was being stretched across impossible distances. She felt herself fragmenting, pieces of her consciousness scattering. Her father's voice anchored her. He talked about the time she'd learned to ride a bike, about her first day of school, about the way she laughed when he told bad jokes. Normal memories, normal moments, reminding her of who she was. The energy flow intensified. Lucy screamed, unable to contain the pain anymore. "Lucy!" Robert started toward the airlock, but Oren grabbed him. "You can't. The radiation would kill you before you reached her. She has to do this alone." Lucy's body glowed now, light pouring from her in waves. Inside Ashkor's crystallized structure, something shifted. Ancient quantum patterns began realigning. A consciousness that had existed between states started finding purchase in reality again. "I can't," Lucy gasped. "It's too much. I can't hold it." "Yes, you can," her father said firmly. "You're the bravest person I've ever known. You can do this." Lucy thought about the dragon's loneliness, thought about all those years serving others, never asking for anything in return. Ashkor deserved a second chance. The galaxy deserved a guardian, and sometimes impossible things required impossible courage from impossible people. She stopped fighting the energy flow and surrendered to it completely. Light exploded across the Cradle Nebula. When it faded, everyone stared in shock. Ashkor's crystallized eye opened. The dragon took its first new breath in weeks, and Lucy collapsed, her small body floating limp in space, still connected to the dragon by threads of light that wouldn't break, because bringing back the impossible had required becoming part of it. Robert reached his daughter in less than 30 seconds, though it felt like hours. He pulled Lucy's limp body into his arms, desperately checking her vitals through the suit's display. Her heartbeat slow but steady. Her breathing continued, shallow but present. She was alive, but something had changed. Energy patterns flickered across her skin, visible even through the suit like starlight moving beneath her flesh. "Lucy, wake up. Please wake up." Her eyes opened, but they weren't quite the same eyes. They held depth that hadn't been there before, knowledge that shouldn't fit in a 7-year-old's gaze. When she looked at her father, he saw his daughter, but he also saw something ancient looking through her. "Daddy," she whispered. It worked. Behind them, Ashkor moved for the first time since death. The massive crystallized structure remained, but now it pulsed with light from within. The dragon's wing twitched, and across the galaxy, a distant star system stopped its catastrophic drift. Gravitational flows began stabilizing, answering to the presence that had maintained them for millions of years. But there was a difference now. Ashkor couldn't function alone anymore. Lucy felt it immediately. Her consciousness and the dragon's were linked, intertwined in ways that couldn't be undone. She was the anchor keeping Ashkor present in physical reality. Without her, the dragon would slip back into quantum uncertainty. Without Ashkor's power flowing through her, she would burn out like a candle. They were bonded, two beings sharing one purpose. "We need to get you back to the ship," Robert said, but Lucy shook her head. "Not yet. I need to help Ashkor remember how to work. It's been gone too long. The patterns are confusing." She turned to face the dragon's massive crystallized form. Even unconscious, the connection allowed her to sense its confusion. Ashkor had existed between death and life for weeks, and now it struggled to remember its purpose. Lucy reached out through their bond, sharing memories. Not her own memories, but the ones Ashkor had given her, showing the dragon its own past, reminding it of what it had done for millions of years, how it had tended the galaxy like a careful gardener, making tiny adjustments that prevented catastrophe. The dragon understood. Ancient instincts awakened. Across the Andara galaxy, everyone felt the shift immediately. Gravitational anomalies began correcting themselves. Planets that had started drifting from their orbits slowly returned to stable paths. Rifts in space-time began healing, stitching themselves closed as reality reasserted its proper structure. On the expedition ship, Orin watched his instruments with tears streaming down his face. "It's working. The cascade failure is reversing. Gravitational harmony is being restored." High Curator Reith's image appeared on every screen, his ancient features showing emotion he rarely displayed.
"How is this possible?"
The Draconis was dead. "Nothing can reverse death. A human child did the impossible," Orin said simply. "She brought back a dragon. She saved us all." But the cost was becoming clear. Lucy couldn't leave. Her bond with Ashkor tethered her consciousness to the Cradle Nebula. If she moved too far away, the connection would strain and break, and the dragon would slip back into quantum uncertainty. She could feel the boundaries of her range, a sphere roughly 3 light-years in radius centered on Ashkor's body. She would have to stay here. Forever. Robert understood this the moment they returned to the ship and Lucy collapsed again, crying out in pain when the distance became too great. They immediately maneuvered back closer to the dragon and Lucy's agony eased. "No," Robert said. "No, there has to be another way." "There isn't," Lucy whispered. She looked smaller now, exhausted from channeling cosmic energies. "The dragon and I are connected. I'm the anchor keeping it real. If I leave, everything falls apart again. Then I'll stay with you. Your mother and I both. We'll make a home here." Lucy smiled sadly. "You can't stay forever, Daddy. You have your own life, your work, your friends, and I'll be okay. I have Ashkor now. I'm not alone." She reached out through the bond and the dragon responded. Its massive consciousness touched hers gently, grateful and apologetic and amazed. It had never expected to return from death. It had never imagined bonding with another being, especially one so young and so different from its own kind. But Lucy was remarkable. She was human, with all the adaptability and emotional strength that implied. She was young, with a child's capacity for wonder and acceptance, and she was brave enough to sacrifice everything for others. Together, they would maintain the balance. Ambassador Hendricks contacted the ship directly. "The Council is convening emergency session. They want to discuss what happens next." What happened next was unprecedented. The Council of Sovereign Worlds, 12 species who had existed for millions of years, who had built empires and mastered sciences humanity barely understood, formally acknowledged that they had been wrong about humans. They had dismissed humanity as too young, too primitive, too insignificant. A 7-year-old girl had proven them wrong by saving their entire galaxy. High Curator Reith addressed the Council personally, his voice carried across light years. "We have witnessed something today that challenges everything we thought we knew. A child of a junior species accomplished what all our ancient technology could not. She brought life from death. She bonded with a being millions of years older than her entire civilization, and she did it through courage, empathy, and determination." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried genuine humility. "We owe humanity an apology. We owe young Lucy Walsh a debt we can never fully repay, but we can try." The Council voted unanimously on several measures. First, humanity would receive full Council membership immediately, with all rights and privileges that entailed. No more being dismissed as junior species. No more having their ideas ignored. Second, a permanent station would be built in the Cradle Nebula, a place where Lucy and her family could live comfortably while she maintained her bond with Ashkor. The station would be a marvel of combined technology from all council races, a gift of gratitude. Third, and most importantly, Lucy would be named the first guardian of the Andara Galaxy, a position created specifically for her, acknowledging her unique role as Ashkor's anchor and partner in maintaining cosmic balance. Robert held his daughter as these announcements came through, feeling pride and grief war in his chest. Lucy would never have a normal childhood now. She would grow up in the Cradle Nebula, bonded to an ancient dragon responsible for an entire galaxy's stability. But she would also become the youngest legend in recorded history. Proof that age and species didn't determine worth. That courage could come in the smallest packages. That sometimes the impossible just needed someone willing to try. "Are you okay with this?" Robert asked his daughter quietly. Lucy looked out at the stars being born around them. She could feel Ashkor's presence in her mind, ancient and patient and grateful. She could sense the galaxy stabilizing, billions of lives saved by what she'd done. "It's scary," she admitted. "I'll miss home. I'll miss my friends. I'll miss being normal. But someone had to help. And I could. How do you say no to that?" She looked up at her father with eyes that held both a child's innocence and a guardian's wisdom. "The dragon was alone for so long, Daddy. Now neither of us is alone. We have each other. And you and Mom are coming to stay, right?" "Of course we are. We'll never leave you." Lucy smiled, a genuine 7-year-old smile. "Then it'll be okay." Different, but okay. Construction on the Guardian Station began within days. Engineers from all council races worked together, building something beautiful among the stellar nurseries. A home for Lucy and her parents. A research center where scientists could study the unique bond between human and Draconis. A symbol of what different species could accomplish together. Lucy spent her days learning to work with Ashkor. The dragon taught her how to sense gravitational flows, how to make tiny adjustments that prevented catastrophe, how to tend a galaxy the way others might tend a garden. It was hard work, but she was never alone in it. The dragon's presence in her mind was constant, supportive, patient. And sometimes when the work was done and the galaxy ran smoothly, they would play. Ashkor would show Lucy memories of flying through nebulae millions of years ago, and Lucy would share her memories of playing on New Haven, of learning to read, of the joy of simple childhood moments. They learned from each other, ancient and young, dragon and human, bonded in ways that shouldn't be possible but were. Months passed. The Andara Galaxy stabilized completely. Worlds that had faced destruction now flourished. The Council worked more cooperatively, remembering that wisdom could come from unexpected sources. And in the Cradle Nebula, surrounded by newborn stars, a little girl who had done the impossible lived with her family, and an ancient dragon who had taken its final breath until she brought it back. Lucy Walsh was 7 years old. She was the guardian of the Andara Galaxy. She was bonded to a being millions of years her elder. She was proof that humanity belonged among the stars, not because they were the strongest or the oldest or the most advanced, but because they were human, because they tried, because they cared, because when faced with the impossible, they refused to accept that word. Sometimes at night, Lucy would stand at the observation window of Guardian Station and look at the stars. Ashkor would be there with her, its massive crystallized form visible through the viewport, wings spread across light years. And through their bond, they would share a simple truth. The universe didn't always need the biggest or the oldest to protect it. Sometimes it just needed the bravest, and brave came in all sizes, even one small enough to fit in a father's arms but large enough to hold the heart of a galaxy. The dragon had taken its final breath, until a little girl did the impossible, and together they breathed life back into everything.